I think that when you do fall into that trap of toxic positivity, you're in a constant state of not feeling good enough. You're obviously doing something wrong if you express feeling badly about something. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I want to welcome back Sandy Weiner, the dating coach, relationship expert, the founder of Last First Date, and the author of Choice Points in Dating and Love at Last. Sandy, thanks for being here again.
Great to be back.
Sandy, today, toxic positivity. We talk a lot about being positive, staying positive. Don't bring the negative, to a date or just in general to people. In dating, especially, you hear, the just move on, don't be sad, keep smiling. However, there is such a thing as we're learning here as toxic positivity that in some way can be just as harmful. What is toxic positivity?
It's basically the belief that we always have to be upbeat. We always have to be happy, no matter what we're really feeling. We just have to always just keep on keeping on. Everything's great. It's just not realistic. And I think what we're doing when we say everything's great, don't be sad, just move on. You had a breakup. Okay, no problem, move on. You are not processing feelings. And most of us struggle with that anyway. We don't know how to process what we're feeling, what we're needing. I spend so much of my coaching time helping people do that. Dating is not a straight line. It is filled with ups and downs. And so if we don't acknowledge, we don't have to dwell there, but don't acknowledge that dating comes with lots of emotions, that we don't just focus on trying to stay happy all the time, because that is bad for us and it's bad for connection.
And toxic positivity people can be super annoying too. So
Yeah,
I
super
let's
annoying.
it's super annoying at times. And I don't, we're laughing about this a little bit. We're not here to say, oh, start being negative. That's not the point of the segment. But it is to understand the difference between healthy positivity and toxic. And we'll build that into our conversation because I think it's a super important point. So what are some examples of toxic positivity so people understand what we're talking about here? I think one of the big ones is just, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Right. I have a friend who says that. She'll go, oh, I'm really struggling. My kid did this and that and this, but I'm fine. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we can't even finish the conversation because she's already taken away the ability to connect on anything she just shared because she doesn't want to dwell there. So we can be exhausted, we can feel frustrated, we can feel angry, but we don't want to be vulnerable. So we say, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real barrier to connection.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And a lot of times it's like, I'm fine. Well, you already know you're not.
Yeah, if you say it like this, I'm fine.
Fine. I know that's it. There's a lot in those 2 words, 3 words. Yeah. Pretending like past relationships didn't hurt. Yeah, because we got to stay positive, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it is painful to end a relationship. It's painful to get divorced. It's painful to have loss. So it's common to feel pain, and don't dismiss the pain, but also don't dwell on the pain. Past relationships, even if you were the one who left, it still is a mourning a loss of something you wished would have worked out, for example. So you could even say that to a person you're dating, I really wanted it to work. And unfortunately, we couldn't work through our issues. And now I'm ready to find somebody else. That's very different from it was no big deal.
Right. Like a couple other things here that I think are very relatable is, like brushing off rejection or downplaying loneliness. That hurts you in the long run.
People will often say, oh, you dodged a bullet. Don't worry about it. Just move on. Or saying, my single life is so great, even when you're really lonely. I mean, yeah, you should create a great life as a single person, but you also are going to have moments of loneliness and yearning. All of it is part of the whole being of who you are, not just the I'm great, everything's fine.
Mhm. Yeah. Where do we get that? I think that one of the big pieces to this, to being, quite frankly, in my opinion, maybe afraid's too strong, but so hesitant to say how we really feel, is because other people tell us that we shouldn't feel that way. A well-meaning friend, oh, you're going to find someone. If you are the well-meaning friend, this is also an important conversation.
Absolutely. We don't know how to be with hard feelings in general. So if a friend shares something, we don't always have the words to say something supportive. So we'll say, hey, you'll be fine. You'll get over it. You always do. But right now, I need some support. And yeah, it starts often at home, where don't cry, buck up. You should be grateful that you don't have it as bad as the people next door. And you hear it all the time. People will say, I'm suffering, but it could be worse. Why not just say I'm suffering right now and not it could be worse? Because right now you have a right to feel what you feel.
Because then you just start feeling even worse. It's like, wow, it should be better. Or like the forcing gratitude. I should just be thankful that I'm healthy. Yeah, you should be thankful you're healthy, but that doesn't mean that you can't be hurt about something too. Another great example, I think, is posting constant upbeat messages on social media. Talk about toxic positivity, and that can actually be very annoying too, but just living my best life.
Yeah, I know. And it's such an important thing to know that what we see on social media is just a tiny snippet of what life really looks like. And it's nice when people say, hey, here's what happens behind the scenes. It took me 5 hours to get that shot, and my kids were screaming in the background. And, I had just had the worst day of my life, but I just wanted to share this. And then there are the people who are the opposite, who will cry every time they get on social media and want you to see the full breadth of their deepest emotions. And I can't handle that either. It's the extremes that I think are really
Right.
difficult.
No, I totally agree. And again, if I have to choose one extreme over the other, I'll pick positivity versus the negativity. But I think that when you do fall into that trap of toxic positivity, you're in a constant state of not feeling good enough. You're obviously doing something wrong if you express feeling badly about something. And they have
Mhm.
some other good examples here of healthy positivity versus toxic, how to tell the difference. Maybe that will help clarify some of this. Is that like instead of I never get discouraged about dating. It's like, oh, I never get discouraged about it. Everything is wonderful. It's just, dating can be frustrating sometimes, but I'm staying open and hopeful. I'm sure you have more examples like that.
Yeah, saying everything happens for a reason. I don't believe bad things happen. I don't believe to be negative. Like, oh God, I hate that so much.
Yeah, I know.
I think we find a reason, but to say that that breakup was hurtful, but I'm learning from it. I'm healing. I'm trying to do better next time. It's acknowledging the pain and then looking for the positivity.
Mhm.
Don't negate the pain part. So saying no drama, no baggage. This is what people
Mhm.
write on their profiles all the time. I don't want anybody with drama. Well, everybody's got baggage. Everybody's got drama. So, just to say, we all come with our history, but what really matters is, did we learn? Did we grow from it?
It's interesting. I'll look for it in the comments. Please leave your comments. How has toxic positivity affected you? Like, are you toxic when it comes to being positive, or is it being fed to you somehow, that you're, especially people on this channel, a lot of people who are watching this channel, they have been divorced, they just lost someone, they're frustrated with the dating process, and there's a lot of things to be upset about without being totally negative. What have you heard? What are some of the things that really bother you?
I had an experience very early on in dating after my divorce where there was a man who we had a phone call, and the entire phone call, he did not want to talk about anything negative. And he kept saying that, like, no, I don't want to go there. No, that only positive, and I remember being so turned off. I didn't know the term toxic positivity, but I was like, you're cutting off the conversation at every
Mhm.
turn.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on the negative, but you're not allowing for a full conversation. You're just saying, positive vibes only. It was such a turnoff to me. And, I want to be real with people. And I hope that our listeners feel the same way.
So what if we are the friend? What do you do then? What advice do you have for friends who give chronically positive direction?
So if you're the kind of person who has done that, saying you're going to be okay, everything's great, it all happens for a reason, really be mindful of your language. For example, if somebody shares that they just had a breakup, don't say, it's okay, you dodged a bullet, you're going to find somebody soon. Use empathy, and that must be hurtful. That sounds like it was really hurtful. You were really looking forward to this relationship working out. How can I support you? People who lose, get divorced, don't say, well, I never liked that person anyway. I had people tell me that. I never liked your husband. That actually is very demeaning, because even if I didn't like my husband at the end, I married this person and I stayed with him for a long time.
Mhm.
So instead, you could say that, your marriage must have been really hard for you. How do you feel now?
Mhm.
Even when somebody tells you they're divorced, don't say, great, or I'm so sorry. Either one of those is not a great response. Just to say, how can I support you? Or how do you feel?
Mhm.
How's it going for you? Get curious, use empathy, don't give people advice, empathize with them instead, and don't just tell them to move on. They need to process things.
One of the examples they give here about the don't say that to a divorced person is, don't say, well, at least you were married once.
I
Would be
know,
would somebody actually say? I guess they do.
especially if they were never married, and they would say, well, at least you had a marriage. That's not helpful.
Yeah, or just get back out there. That's another, yeah. I think I've said that. Yeah, you have to really analyze in what context you say stuff like that. I mean, obviously, we're in that space of encouraging people, but the more we talk about this and other segments, also, it is so important to recognize where the person is who you're talking with, and toxic positivity can actually make it can make it worse. So how do we avoid it? How do we avoid the toxic positivity trap, especially when people around us are the ones that are unintentionally making us feel like we need to be positive?
Yeah, I mean, people do mean well for the most part. I think that when you say just move on and everything happens for a reason, they're just trying to make you feel better, but actually they're making themselves feel better. So, have permission to feel, and also let people know that this isn't helpful. Here's what I really need. And I remember telling my mom when she was trying to tell me not to feel something, I appreciate that you're trying to help, because she was.
Mhm.
But can I tell you what would work better for me? And I've said that to people who said, I'm so sorry you're divorced, when I wasn't sorry I was divorced because it took so long to get there. I was feeling really good. So that's the opposite. And I would say, can I tell you what would work better for me? So you want to give people permission to feel, but also educate people as to what works better for you.
Yeah, and give yourself permission to feel, as it says here, fully, that you don't, it's not up to you to rush through grief or hurt. Yes, you don't want to bring people down constantly. That gets real old real fast. But yeah, you have to at least acknowledge it and sit in it for a bit. It says here to be honest but not bitter when dating. That's good advice.
That's really good advice, because so many people just carry the victim mindset of this was a terrible thing that happened
Yeah.
to me. So, I encourage people to be vulnerable, to say it was hard, and to say, and now, now I'm ready for this. So this is what happened, and I'm looking forward to the next stage in my life. So it's not like, oh, everything's fine. It's, everything wasn't fine. I've been working really hard on it.
I don't know what struck me about this, but I think that this is such an important topic because authenticity, we preach authenticity, and this is anything but being authentic.
Authenticity sounds like it would be the easiest thing in the world. Just be yourself. And it is one of the hardest things because we've been conditioned to be positive. We've been conditioned to be people pleasers. We want to make people happy. And I think if you can recenter yourself and ask, what would make me happy? What would actually feel true to me before you give bad advice that's overly positive or accept overly positive toxic advice, then you'll be much more grounded in your ability to respond and to be your true self. I would say this is a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. We are conditioned to do this our whole lives. And so to switch to honesty and not just turning everything into sunshine
Mm-hmm.
can take some work, but it's important work.
What I really liked about this, what struck me is that there's just such a thing as toxic positivity. I had not heard that word, and it's like,
Mm.
it's okay. There is such a thing. I don't have to be positive all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you feel like that and you really need some help in this department, Sandy, incidentally, is a communications expert, which is so important when it comes to our topic today. And check out her podcast. We don't talk about your podcast enough. Last First Date Radio. Thank you, Sandy. I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.